So the next team that's going to be spun on this wheel is James Madison. Just moved into the FBS in college football. They've been in Division I. They're going to go southeast to try to take some land. So James Madison going southeast is going to give them a pretty tough matchup in Virginia, one that they probably aren't going to come out on top of. But again, Eastern Kentucky just beat Kentucky, so it could happen. But Virginia does end up winning that game by 5. So Virginia takes over James Madison, and that almost doubled their land mass to a respectable piece of even almost West Virginia. They might have some of West Virginia now. So going back to the wheel. We have Wyoming going up. And they're going to go in the west direction. I know in Natty Cash's video, Wyoming had a big chunk of land. So going in the west direction, that's going to be Wichita State, though, which is, again, probably a loss. Another one of the first tournament teams to be featured in this episode after, like, Kentucky and, I think, well, obviously Virginia just last simulation. And Wyoming is actually going to beat Utah State, putting a tournament team out. Wow. So that's a pretty big upset. We'll see how much land it gives them. So a huge chunk of land here for Wyoming is going to give them almost half of the state of Utah, as well as their own state, and even parts here of, like, maybe even North and South Dakota. It's huge for Wyoming, probably the second biggest, even except for Boise State, which is almost like what happened to Natty Cash in his videos. If you haven't watched him, go do that. It's great. Back to the wheel. Utah State going out is kind of a shocker, and as well as Kentucky. 2 of the 3 tournament teams that we've seen have gone out. And Louisiana, they're also a tournament team. So we're starting to see more better teams, more good teams appear, and they're going to go southeast in Louisiana. So southeast for the Ragin' Cajuns is going to be Nichols. Yeah, this should... Oh, hold on. Well, let me find this real quick. Okay, there we go. I had some trouble trying to find out where they were. Now we got it. Lafayette and Nichols State. Louisiana Lafayette should run over them, and... Okay, wait, that's the wrong Lafayette. But it says UL Lafayette. I think they just got the logo wrong. Louisiana Lafayette does win 74-70. So pretty quickly, Louisiana Lafayette has a decent sized piece of land here in Louisiana. Still got to contend with a lot of other teams. I mean, you got Southeastern Louisiana, New Orleans, Tulane, LSU, Southern, just to name a few. But it's a pretty big chunk of land for the Ragin' Cajuns. Now back to the wheel we go again. Wait a minute. Duke and Xavier shouldn't be one team. We'll fix that in a second. It is Troy. And we got an Alabama team. And the direction they are going is going to be east. So Troy going east, that might actually be a win for them. It's going to be against Florida State, who is one of the worst, if not like the second or third worst Power 5 conference, or Power 5 team all year. Troy can probably win this game, but they don't come out on top. Florida State is going to go into Alabama. And that's a solid chunk of southern Alabama. If they can go even farther east and take out South Alabama themselves, that would be the whole piece of land in southern Alabama and even part of Mississippi would be Florida State. So it'll probably be a while till we see them again. And then next up on the wheel, this wheel, so many teams on you can't even see who it's going to land on. It's Wichita State. Right in the middle of the U.S. They can obviously go any direction. It's going to be northwest. So it looks like Northwest is going to catch the tail end here of Air Force's territory. So Wichita State, Air Force. I'm not really sure who's going to win this game. Probably Wichita State. Probably the... Oh my goodness, that's a blowout. But yeah, Wichita State does indeed win this game by a boatload. So Air Force now covered up in shocker yellow. And Wichita State now controls parts of four, they're in Oklahoma, 4, maybe even 5 if you count this, different states. Huge empire for the Shockers as they knock out Air Force. Next up, trying to claim some land, is going to be Louisiana Monroe, another Louisiana team. We'll see who they get pitted against. If it's Louisiana, we'll see them playing for the second time in not very long. It's Southwest. Southwest for Louisiana Monroe is going to be Northwestern State. Neither of these teams were all that good, so I'm not sure who gets this win. It's going to be UL Monroe, 78-73 over Northwestern State. So Louisiana starting to get more teams in it that control more land, being right here, Louisiana Monroe and Louisiana. So back to the wheel we go. It's going to be Wake Forest. Some tough teams around them, though. The direction they're going to go is southwest. So Wake Forest going southwest, they're barely going to touch the very tip here of Queens, who's already played. They pulled an upset. We'll see if they can do it again on Wake Forest. I doubt it. But maybe, it's a close game, but Wake Forest scrapes out of it by 1. What a game. So Queens going off of the map, similar color to Queens is Wake Forest. It's not going to change the color all that much, but changes the map. So the next team going to be spun. Queens is also one of the first teams along with Kentucky that I can remember that's taken land and then already lost it. All of it. Next team is going to be Louisville, the worst Power 5 team this year. And they're going east. So going east is going to pit them against Eastern Kentucky, who's already beaten Kentucky. I would think that they could beat Louisville too, but if not, then Louisville would take a huge chunk of land, and they do beat the Colonels 69-64. What a big chunk of land they're about to take. So the Colonels are now off the map, and Louisville looking good as they defeat Eastern Kentucky. Another wheel spin coming up. And it's East Carolina. Had a lot of action in the Carolinas so far. Some more right here. The direction is west they're going. Well, I was about to say they can't go west. Oh, wait, no, that's east. Goodness. So from the logo, it looks like it's going to be Campbell. So East Carolina and Campbell is our next matchup. Again, not really sure on this one. East Carolina should probably win, but they don't. Campbell actually does win. Actually, well, based on that, Campbell should have won. They win by 17, a big win for Campbell. Just like that, a lot of orange over here in the Carolinas. East Carolina, the biggest territory of any of the teams in North Carolina, and Campbell controls a lot of area up here, but they're also vulnerable to attack from all 4 angles. Even anywhere you look at it, they can be attacked now, so very dangerous for them. But they also getting more land. That's the ultimate goal. So the next team is going to be Murray State in Kentucky. They don't have to worry about facing Kentucky anymore. Going southeast, we'll see who that is. Southeast for them is going to be the Austin Peay Governors. This should be a Murray State win. Austin Peay was not very good in the ASUN this year, finishing, I believe, dead last, and it is a 14-point win for the Racers. So the Governors are now off the map. Murray State with another decent chunk of land, and we go back to the wheel again. Who will be spun on this time? Texas Southern, an NCAA tournament team, but they were probably the team that nobody expected to that did. They were 14-20. They ended up losing to Fairleigh Dickinson in the first four, and they're going to go Northeast. So North and East for them is going to put them against Houston. Oh, that is not a good matchup for Texas Southern. If they were to put Houston out, it would cause chaos in Texas, and they're not going to. 75-60 Houston with a pretty easy win. And, well, let's just say that Texas Southern's run ends pretty quickly. So going back to this wheel. The next team that's going to be spun is VCU. They made the tournament this year. Starting to see more teams that have made the tournament. Oh, I didn't mean to spin that again. That'll just be our next wheel spin. And they're going to go Southeast. Okay, so VCU going Southeast, I believe, is going to put them up against Richmond. Richmond has some weird borders, but I believe that's what it's going to be. So VCU and Richmond is what we have. This would be a pretty big chunk of land if VCU wins. Not so much for Richmond, and VCU does win. So that will be a pretty big chunk of land. So the Spiders are now gone. So even quite a few pretty big empires. Pretty close here. Radford, Virginia, VCU have all taken land. So let's see. Also, the next team spun when I actually spun the wheel was Georgia Tech. So the way that they're going to be going is Northeast. So Northeast for Georgia Tech is going to be Georgia. I think it's closer to Kennesaw State and Georgia, but I think it's going to be Georgia. So this is the big rivalry. Georgia typically dominates this at all sports, but Georgia Tech could actually get them here, but they don't. Oof, Georgia destroys. Destroys Georgia Tech. So pretty good win there for Georgia. Now they will take the Yellow Jackets land, and Georgia has some decent chunk of land here in Georgia. So going back to the wheel. We have, does that say Tarleton State? It does. Tarleton State is going to be going in the direction of south. So unfortunately for you Tarleton State fans, it's going to run them right into Texas. Buzzsaw. There's an unlikely chance for an upset, but I really don't see this happening as Texas does win by 19 here. And Texas, well, they didn't have a big chunk when they first started out, now has a decent little piece of land here due to the Longhorns. So let's go back to this wheel for this final spin of the video for today. Who's it going to land on? It's going to be USC. The Trojans. Who will they play if it's against? There's quite a few good California teams. Northwest. I'm not sure they can go Northwest. We'll see. Okay, so they can actually go Northwest. That's going to put them up against, I believe, USC and Pepperdine for the final match of the video. And USC wins it by 12. So we can erase Pepperdine's land. And there's a new piece for USC. So that's going to be all for the video, guys. Remember to subscribe. There should be some more of this content, and it'll be the show content. It's about to come out. But thank you for watching, and I will see you later.